When I tell people that I am a meteorologist, generally the first question that people ask is, when am I going to see you on TV, or what station do you work for? Honestly, only about 2% of all meteorologists actually appear on TV. But that brings up an interesting question. Why do we even do it? I mean, people always joke that meteorology is the only career where you can be wrong half the time and still keep your job. So why do we do it if we're always wrong? Well, first of all, let me point out that it is tough to actually forecast the weather with a lot of accuracy. We saw that in the opening section of the course. So here we're going to talk a little bit more about why we forecast the weather. Now, before I do, let me tell you the efforts that we make to be able to accurately forecast. We have land-based stations, 10,000 land-based stations. That's probably just here in the U.S. alone. We have more land stations in other countries as well. There are lots of weather stations that collect information. We have the ASOS system, which is a very highly sophisticated weather measurement system that's used by the National Weather Service. If you go to airports, that's the system they use. In addition to that, we have hundreds of ships and buoys constantly measuring information. 4 times a day, they send regular updates to the system. And then we can measure the upper atmosphere as well using radiosondes or weather balloons. We can use aircraft. They have sensors in the nose of the airplane or in the wings. That sends information to tell us about the upper atmosphere. We also have satellites. You can imagine how much all of this costs. For example, a weather balloon. Each weather balloon costs about $100. You launch it twice a day. That's $200 per station. You have 100 stations around the nation, around the United States. That's $20,000 a day just for weather balloons. Not to mention all the other stations and everything. So it's a lot of money and effort and resources put into this. Once we have that data is then sent to the United Nations World Meteorological Organization, which consists of 175 countries with 3 main centers in Melbourne, Australia, Moscow, Russia, and Washington, D.C. So that's where all the data is accumulated. Once we have that data, then we have the National Center for Environmental Prediction, or NCEP, which is centered in Boulder, Colorado. Also the center of the U.S. National Weather Service. And there they take this data and they feed it through computer models to create a forecast. So now we're to it. What we get there, we get to the forecast. What's the point? What is the goal of all meteorologists? Do we do it just for fun? I'll admit I'm a nerd. I think it is fun. It's great. But that is not the ultimate goal of meteorologists. The ultimate goal of all meteorologists is public safety. If the public's not safe, then we're not doing our job. We're just goofing around having fun. So that is the ultimate objective of every single meteorologist. So to that end, what we do with our forecasts is we take all that data, we process it through computer models, we see what's going to happen, and from that we can produce watches, warnings, and advisories. An advisory is just a potentially hazardous situation. For instance, strong winds, wind chills, extreme heat, urban and small streams, snow, dense fog. Those are good examples of advisories where you have the potential for a hazardous condition. Once the models and the forecasts are starting to show that the conditions are very favorable for the hazardous weather, we issue a watch. This is something that says, during this period of time, you have a condition that favors something severe. For example, We may have some thunderstorms build up, and the Weather Service will put out a tornado watch, meaning these conditions are favorable for a tornado to form. And then, if that hazardous weather is imminent, in other words, it's going to happen, it's just a matter of time, they issue a warning. So using the previous example, you have a whole bunch of storms forming in the area, you've got a tornado watch. And then all of a sudden you see a storm developing the right characteristics for a tornado, bam, you've got yourself a warning. The condition is perfect for a tornado to form. And under the watch and the warning, you can see a bunch of examples of where we would use those type of notices. But yes, this is it. This is what the ultimate goal is of forecasting, to issue advisories, watches, and warnings in order to protect the public and property.